Welcome, Media Men Online. I'm Dan. This is Isaiah.
What up?
Welcome back. We're going to start with some news. So, Koei Horikoshi confirms My Hero Academia will end in 5 chapters, and you had the date. Was it August?
I believe it was August 8th.
August 8th. So they're still doing weekly for the last 5 chapters, and the way we heard about it before, it sounded like they were going to, because he was going to, quote, continue for a while, and 5 chapters isn't a while.
Or
so.
August 4th.
Yeah,
That's a Sunday, so I'm assuming that's...
Oh, yeah. Well, so where would you rank it? I mean, this is kind of off the top of the head, but where would you rank it among your favorite Shonen Jump, or I guess however you want to do it, manga series of all time? Like,
Just
you don't have
Shonen
to
Jump?
give, like, yeah, you don't have to give like, oh, it's number 7. You can say it's top 10, top 20, whatever.
Yeah, it's weird because, like, things about it, like, we've talked about it before, but my thoughts on the show and manga have obviously changed with the recent arc. And I was looking at my anime 9x9, and I didn't have My Hero in it, and I don't know if it was just because, like, it was in yours, or if I was trying to, like, widen my taste with it, but I would assume it'd be in my top 10 somewhere. Still, because I have, especially like the past couple of years, tried not to let the endings to things completely ruin stuff for me.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think more so the anime than the manga, because there's so many manga out there. Like, obviously with things like Berserk and Vinland Saga, which I haven't read any of the, or watched any of the anime for, / Berserk's anime is pretty terrible.
Need to watch.
But for me, the My Hero Academia bit is some of the best and my favorite manga that I've read. Obviously excluding this last bit, I'm kind of in the same boat. But you had Mirio when he, that section you mentioned, but the thing that was my background was when he returned with,
that too.
With the genius dude. Where he
that
jumps out of the thing. Like, that was my background. There's a guy on Twitter, or X now, who colors in a lot of these panels and posts it. And I had the colored in version as the background of my phone for months. I don't even know how long.
Something that I know even non-anime watchers will watch. It came out at the right time when, Marvel was at its peak and, superhero stuff was budding, and it at least the anime did. And, you
mean when the MCU was doing well?
Yeah. Sorry, when the MCU was doing well. It had something unique to tell with its characters and story, and, ensembles are hard to get done well, and it has a great ensemble where you care about basically all the characters. I like it.
Or this mystery that a lot of authors can't track down. Actually, a lot of even storytellers, a lot of the most popular like series, even American series, have trouble ending the series as well.
Yeah.
There's something about endings that some just can't get right. Oshinoko. For some reason, Oshino LOL has reached over 17.5 million copies in circulation with its 14th volume. That's pretty much all with that one. Doing very well. There's a promotion on Manga Plus by Shueisha, which is an Android app. I believe iPhone has it as well. So they're promoting a watch an ad to support the manga creator. So you can choose to watch an ad within the app, and every ad that is watched, a portion of that goes directly to the creator, which for some reason says a limited time. I guess they want to see how many people actually choose to watch an ad, but I'm hoping people will do that. So, just to get a little kickback. It is a free app. You can choose to pay to watch back or read back some of the old stuff. It's totally free if you want to just read one time. As soon as you read it once, it's locked out for you, each chapter. But it is totally free. Shueisha app. Manga Plus, it's called on Android. But yeah, if you have extra time, go over and watch an ad to support a creator. So, which I thought was a pretty good idea. Totally optional. Unlike Amazon Prime, who has now decided that even Amazon Prime exclusive things will get ads. Like you can't avoid ads anywhere. It was originally meant to be, well, I guess we're doing ads for this freebie stuff because it's free and it's not technically Prime, which was a scam to begin with. And now it's, well, we're putting ads on the at the beginning of The Boys, which is our own thing. So that's really great.
Dragon Age, the Vanguard. Have you played any Dragon Age games before?
Nope.
So there's been 3 previous games in Dragon Age. I played all 3 of them. There's Dragon Age Origins, there is Dragon Age 2, and then there's Dragon Age Inquisition, which is basically Dragon Age 3. Now, the games kind of really changed over time. Dragon Age Origins was like a top-down, you move people, very like Baldur's Gate 3-esque kind of game. Where it's like you like give commands and then you like play out time and the characters will do the commands as you generate them. Dragon Age 2 had a little bit more action combat to it where it's like, oh, you can press and pull down the R2 button to continue attacking somebody between commands and whatnot. And then Dragon Age Inquisition was kind of like a mix where it's like, sorry, of course, now that I've been talking a bunch, I get a ton of stuff in my throat. Dragon Age Inquisition was like, all right, you'll press R2 to keep attacking and whatnot, and you can move around and do this with all the characters. And there's quick buttons for abilities, but you can also go into tactical mode, which freezes time, and then you can give out commands like that, and then you can like play out time as it goes. And it was very interesting because there's like certain fights where it's like, oh, I don't need to use tactical at all, but then others where it's like it's a very hard fight. I need to use tactical to make sure that people are standing where they need to stand before, while time's run out, because you can't control 4 characters at once. In action. So Vanguard, they announced, like, this game was announced almost 10 years ago now. Or I guess maybe it wasn't announced, but like Dragon Age Inquisition came out almost over 10 years ago. And the games only had like 2 to 3 years in between cycles beforehand. And it went through a lot of changes, like it was going to be a live service game because that was the big thing then, and then the multiplayer only game. And now it's gone back to just being a single player game, but gone is the tactical combat. It is now full on action combat. Now, when games do this, it's not always a bad thing. Look at Final Fantasy 16. But with Vanguard, they dropped the first trailer, and it looked like a trailer for a hero shooter. Where it's like, here's all your companions, here's all the people, and all the weird, quirky, funny things they do. And I can tell you that first trailer did not feel like Dragon Age at all. They changed the name as well. So Dragon Age 4 was supposed to be called Dragon Age Dreadwolf, which I think is a pretty cool name. And then they went like about a month ago, we're like, hey, we're changing it to Dragon Age The Vanguard. And first off, having the in there just kind of really messes with like the naming scheme of the Dragon Age games. So it's just always been like a single word or just a number. But then the trailer came out, like the full-on gameplay trailer, which looked better, but it just doesn't feel like Dragon Age anymore. BioWare just has gone down, like the tube. It feels like, they had Mass Effect Andromeda, which I liked, but it's because I played the game like a year after launch when all the bugs got fixed. Then they had Anthem, which was just like a huge critical failure. Now this, which is, it just feels like what made BioWare is not there anymore. And as a big Dragon Age fan, because it's in that high, medieval setting that I really like, and especially I was hoping with Baldur's Gate 3 having released that it's like, hey, tactical RPGs are still massive and can be very successful, but it's just gone away from that completely. They're not trying to go that direction at all, and it's disappointing. I'll still, unless further stuff comes out and it just really, really looks terrible, I'm still gonna play this game, give it a chance, but it's not looking. I'm not overly excited for it. Is the thing, which is unfortunate. Dragon Age Inquisition, by the way,
Anthem, which I thought was a pretty interesting game, both in concept and in execution, and they just had a great skeleton of a game.
Yeah.
And they never pushed anything forward. It was actually quite interesting, but
And that was the
probably
problem.
maybe 20 hours into it, and there was just nothing there to do after you learned how to do everything. It was kind of like the Marvel's Avengers game.
Yeah.
That had way more substance, though, believe it or not, to Anthem. It was very...
We actually had fun playing the Marvel game, like, post-launch for a little bit of stuff. But yeah,
Anthem was fun, and the controls were fun, but there was just...
Yeah.
Post-launch, there was just nothing to do. It's pretty
wild. There's no heart in it. It ties very well into, I think, the next thing that you're going to talk about, but I was watching Jeremy Johns talk about a TV show, The Acolyte, and he said, passion is something that money just doesn't buy. Not for $180 million, which is how much The Acolyte cost. He said, not for $4 billion, which was how much Star Wars got bought for. Where it's just like that is just so evidently true with something like Anthem and something like I think what was it that Arcane Austin got shut down for their vampire game they made, Redfall. Where it's just like, it doesn't matter how much money you throw at it if you have no passion behind it.
But the people who they hire, they don't hire because they're passionate about Star Wars. They hire because they have brown skin or genitals
that whole...
It's just they do the whole DEI thing rather than doing the... Most of these people don't even know what the hell Star Wars is, and this is why you get things like this. And this is why whenever anyone mentions Rotten Tomatoes, what's the Rotten Tomatoes score? I completely dismiss it, because Rotten Tomatoes, ever since the Captain Marvel movie, they revealed themselves as being an absolute joke. They completely buffed that movie. They pumped in a bunch of fake reviews. There was a guy called The Quartering who I used to watch his YouTube, but he's one of these people who basically do his entire channel based on like controversies, and there's only so much of that I can take. I don't enjoy watching that stuff because I like to watch things like reviews, like Jeremy Johns is great because it's entertaining or informative or a combination of the two. Hopefully that's what we do. But it's when you get things like that, it just gets very mundane, and it kind of puts me in a bad mood when I'm constantly seeing the Star Wars leader said that men are pieces of shit or something. Like, how many videos could you possibly do on that? We get it. Kathleen Kennedy hates us. I'm going to put it up on the screen. Star Wars The Acolyte. Average tomato meter for, I guess, verified accounts, or however you want to put it, is an 85%. The average audience score, a 13%. And I guarantee, I haven't even read anything about this or anything. I would bet you that the narrative is they're getting review bombed. The show is very good, right? But people are just haters because it's women leading. Have you seen the clip of them standing in a circle and impregnating each other through the Force?
The people who are making Star Wars now they're not making it for the people who liked Star Wars. They're making it for the people who they want to like Star Wars. And it's just become so very clear that it's like they're getting the actual audience and the audience they want to have just completely mixed up. And it's like, and it ruins certain other good things, because I've heard, especially with the latest episode that came out, that it's like, oh, the lightsaber combat fight is actually pretty good. I'm not going to watch it, though, because everything else is bad.
And I find it funny. They probably have gained, I would guess, a couple thousand female Star Wars fans ever since they pushed all this, but they've lost a couple of million male fans. So,
well, I'd say they even lost a bunch of female fans.
Whatever you want.
It doesn't matter.
And my wife is one of them. She used to like Star Wars as well, but we sat through episode 7, and she hated it, I think, more than I did. And I fucking hated episode 7. It was an absolute pile of shit. And people were enamored with it because it was there was such a big gap between episode 3 and episode 7. So people were like, it still holds, I think, the domestic record for for high. I think it's like 998 million or something domestically.
It's the fifth highest grossing movie of all time, right?
Right, but domestically specifically is the highest grossing movie of all time.
Oh, I don't know about domestically. I thought Top Gun Maverick beat it out.
No, it beat it out overall. But let me pull up the numbers because I'm pretty sure domestically, I was looking at it before, just disgusted how high the number was. So to confirm, Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, $936.6 million. First all-time domestically. Second is Avengers Endgame with $858 million. So maybe they'll re-release Endgame at some point to try and scrape in some more money and it can beat it, but holy shit. Top Gun Maverick is fifth all-time domestically behind those two, Spider-Man No Way Home and Avatar 2009.
It's funny.
Oh, that's the one it beat out. So I was celebrating when Top Gun Maverick beat out Black Panther. Because
yep.
those movies comparatively in terms of
way more.
like if you compared the two movies together and you weren't biased, Top Gun Maverick is 50 times better than that pile of shit fucking movie. So
what are you talking about? Black Panther panders to, non-white people. That makes it a better movie.
It won an Oscar or something for some reason.
No, it was the first to be nominated for Best Picture. That was the thing. It was the first superhero movie to be nominated for Best Picture. And it's like, really, Black Panther over something like Captain America, The Winter Soldier. Like, that's the movie that it happens to.
I'm going to just kind of run through this Nintendo Direct for the ones that I was looking for. So I was watching the Nintendo Direct because I thought something new for Pokemon was coming, and I'm always let down when there's not. But a few good things came. There's a lot of good stuff coming for Nintendo.
Pretty good Direct overall.
Yeah, pretty good overall. And Mario Luigi Brothers Ship is probably the most interesting one to me. Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, which Donkey Kong Country. So they actually had a date for that one, January 16th, 2025. Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, which the art style reminded me of, what was the Link's Awakening?
Yes, it's the same exact team.
Yeah. And you play as Zelda this time. And then the big one, Metroid Prime 4. So I was looking back, I played the first two on GameCube.
You never played 3?
Huh?
You never played 3?
No, didn't you have to point your stick and shoot? Like you couldn't play it like a controller, right?
I don't remember if it didn't have the option, but I remember playing 3 with the motion controls and being like, man, I never want to go back to the non-motion controls for 1 and 2. And that's why it was cool when the trilogy came out. They added motion controls to that game. Metroid Prime was one of my first ever games I ever played. Like when I had a GameCube, I only had 5 or 6 games for the longest time, and Metroid Prime was one of those. And it's one of my favorite games of all time. Metroid Prime. Even the original without motion controls, it's still fantastic. And by the way, with the Switch remaster of Metroid Prime, they allowed either motion controls or non-motion controls. So I'm going to assume for 4 that you'll get that same thing. But
hoping so.
But when I got a Wii, one of the 3 games that I got with my Wii was Metroid Prime 3, and it is. I feel it's very underrated because it is definitely the best playing Metroid with all the different items and upgrades you get. Excuse me. And all the different cool things that you can do within the game. And I have a blast with the entire Metroid Prime trilogy. And also, I never played the original Metroid games really until way after. So when I hear Metroid, I think, first-person shooter. I don't think 2D side-scroller, what kind of led to the name of Metroidvania. So, I've been excited for Metroid Prime 4 for a while now. I became more worried as time went on and stuff because it's just man, this game has taken so long to come out. But the thing in the trailer that made me instantly go, okay, I'm going to have a good time with this game, was when they had Samus walking up to something and scanning it and getting the information like you do in the games. And I was like, all right, that is what feels like Metroid to me. Is being able to like analyze stuff, get information off of it. I mean, the first person combat is also very important to the game, but like the exploring of the world and that dynamic of it is what really drew me to Metroid Prime, and that's why my excitement's kind of gone back up for it.
It's funny, people were clamoring for Metroid Prime 4 when we got Metroid Dread, which I thought was a fantastic game and kind of a better. So I love Metroid Prime, but I think that the proper Metroid experience is the 2D game, and that it reminded me of when I played Mario Odyssey. It was Mario 64 perfected. When you played Metroid Dread, it was everything that Samus was meant to be, but in a perfected version, and just so much fun. But remember, they don't let female main characters be in games. So this
so we got
Samus that came out in 1985 or whatever it was.
Metroid.
That's just fake. So no.
Yeah,
Just
I know that's why. Like, I'm actually very excited for the Zelda game though, and it's funny because I think they're like now I can finally say that yes, Zelda is a girl. My dad would always be like, "Oh, is that you playing that Zelda or something?" Or be like, "Well, his name's Link. Yeah, that little game's called Legend of Zelda."
I heard people who love games and are big video game people call Link Zelda.
Yeah.
Very strange.
For my D&D campaign that I do, that takes place in Hyrule. Because if it hasn't been apparent, because I just haven't been able to talk about it a lot, but like Legend of Zelda is like my favorite series, I'd say. Like just with nostalgia and stuff. It's always an instant buy, whatever. But I think it's really cool with that game that they're taking the idea of like Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild of, here's these tools that you can use to kind of like break exploration and kind of putting that into like the 2D format of Zelda. And I'm excited to see how that game plays and what exactly it's gonna do. So I think it's cool that we're getting another Zelda game, and it doesn't have to be like this what feels like a big mainline title. It seems like more of a spin-off, kind of like what Triforce Heroes was, or like Four Swords Adventures. And it just tides us over until the next big Zelda game. So I'm looking forward to those too.
Nice things about Zelda, the franchise itself, is there's so many different styles, from Breath of the Wild all the way down to it's my favorite Zelda game, but A Link Between Worlds. There's so many different ways you can tell the story, and it's really nice.
Probably my second favorite Pixar movie is Inside Out. I just really liked how the movie was so clever with how it gets like emotions and the complexity of how emotions work with each other, and was actually able to like a moving story. And so Pixar has been, when it comes to sequels, does not have a good track record. And just Disney itself in general hasn't had a great track record lately, so I wasn't sure what to think of Inside Out 2. But I had like a free week, like evening, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go see this movie. I saw it opening night. It is probably the best Disney movie I've seen in a theater in like since Moana. It feels like I'm watching Pixar back when they made good movies, like really, really good movies. Because like as much as I liked Luca, it was like this nice little small thing. It felt more like an indie project or something. It was good. It wasn't like amazing or anything. Inside Out 2, I think it doesn't feel like a lot of sequels nowadays where it's just like the first movie again, like Star Wars Episode 7. It's like the first movie again. It actually feels like a continuation and building upon what came before. And as somebody, I don't get into my personal life too much here, but I'll just say like I deal with anxiety quite a bit. And the way they handled that, because that's kind of like the core of the movie, is like, some, as you get older, new emotions come to the forefront. And that's what happens in the movie. You have like anxiety, envy, and embarrassment, I believe, are like the new emotions. And like anxiety is like the big one. And it really helped me understand what it was that I was going through when I was younger. and helping me realize what I'm still going through since I still kind of deal with anxiety and stuff. But I thought that was really surprising that, oh, a Pixar movie is speaking to me on a personal level. That hasn't happened since like Toy Story 2 or something, or like the first Inside Out. And yeah, it was surprising. I can't believe I actually say like I'm going to recommend you go see a Disney movie in theaters, but I thought Inside Out 2 was that good. And if you don't want to support Disney because of how crappy they are as a company, that's very understandable. But yeah, they actually came out with a good movie, and I'd very highly recommend it.
Nice. Yeah, it sounds pretty interesting. I think that, yeah, this is definitely something I could recommend to my wife. Her sister lives in Singapore, so she's in the U.S. for, I think, maybe a month, so I can recommend them to go see it.
Mm-hmm.
She knows me pretty well. She would know if I would enjoy it or not, because I don't mind watching movies like this. It just...
What'd you think of the first one?
Never seen it.
Oh, okay, so I thought... I thought like you had said that you thought the first movie wasn't the good. Because I would highly recommend watching the first movie. I don't know if your wife's seen that one, and if she would think that you'd like that one, but I do think the first movie is kind of like genius with its understanding of emotions, and that's the weird thing with Inside Out too. It's definitely more of an adult movie. Like kids can watch it, but you're not going to understand a lot of like the complexities of emotions and like especially like the idea of like anxiety and what it means to deal with it and the complexities of that when you're younger. Like I say, like if you're 14 or 15, you're going to get something completely different out of the movie than if you're younger than that.
Apparently, this movie came out in 2006. It's called Crank, and I haven't seen this movie in 18 years. So I saw this in theaters in 2006, and kind of, like, anytime anyone would mention it, all I could ever remember was the sex scene with Amy Smart in the middle of Chinatown, because that's what struck out. This is Jason Statham and Amy Smart, and Glenn Howerton is in this, which I totally forgot about.
He is?
Yeah, he's when Jason Statham has to go and steal epinephrine from the hospital, Glenn Howerton's the nurse or doctor that he steals it from. He actually gets shot in the second one, so I watched both of these movies back to back, Crank 1 and 2. And these movies are absolutely batshit insane. And the tagline is, there are 1,000 ways, all in caps, of course, to raise your adrenaline. Today, Chev Chelios, which the name Chev Chelios tells you all you need to know about the goddamn movie. We'll need every single one. The premise, if you haven't seen this movie, go watch it. The premise is that he's injected with a poison. The only thing that keeps the poison from killing him is adrenaline. So the movie is just an hour and a half of batshit insanity, pedal to the metal. Like I can't remember a movie where there's no breaks. There's nothing in the middle that like break up the insanity. In 2006, Jason Statham is the perfect man to take up this task. This movie just goes from bang to bang to bang, and then literally banging his girlfriend in the middle of Chinatown, convincing her somehow, and then getting a call that that they found the guy he's looking for. The entire movie is he wants to find the guy who injected him with the poison before he dies. He's eventually, now this is obviously big spoilers, but I'm going to move right into the second one because I watched both of them. He's thrown out of a helicopter. I don't know how high they were, but the guy was falling enough to take out his phone, dial, leave a voicemail on his girlfriend's message box, whatever the fuck they used to call it, and then realize he's still falling to his death, bounce off the top of a car, and the movie ends with him still being alive. It's the most insane movie I've ever seen. Actually, I mean, that I can even remember. And the only one that comes, because I watched Mad Max Fury Road recently, and that movie feels in a very similar fashion to where it's just,
it's no action. It's at a 9 out of 10 most of the movie for energy.
Yeah. This is Taken, except The only scene I'm going to mention. So the second one, they take out his heart because it's an anomaly that he's still alive. It's still beating. They take it out of his chest and it's beating in the guy's hand like it's frickin' Temple of Doom, so that they can put it. Huh?
I don't think I've seen the second one.
Okay, I'll keep it light.
Is it worth watching?
Yeah, they crank up the insanity, which makes it less good, but it's still good. So on Letterboxd, I gave Crank 1 a 4 out of 5, Crank 2 a 3 out of 5. So they're both, and especially if you watch them together, like, the movie's nuts. But they replace him. The whole thing is, it's the same concept, except instead of the poison, he has a plastic heart. It's a heart that they put in at hospitals while they're waiting for a transplant. So it's not meant to be like long term. I don't know why they put in a plastic heart. Why not just let him die? Like, he's the problem for you guys. You're stealing his heart. Like, why are you... Whatever. That's neither here nor there. There's one scene that makes me laugh so much. It's a car chase where he's got to shoot out the window and, all that cool car chase stuff. But his girlfriend, Amy Smart's in this one as well, is giving him roadhead to keep him like alive still. So she's got her head between his legs while he's driving this insane course, shooting out the window at all these cars chasing. It is batshit insane. It's not meant to be an articulate or any sort of movie that's going to make you think other than holy shit. Highly recommend watching these movies. And if you can, they're both on Amazon Prime. Or no, sorry, they're both on HBO Max. Obviously, if you have a subscription, they're free. And I would recommend watching them back to back because they just run right into the other. So, absolute insanity. Yeah, I was just kind of bored the other day, and I was scrolling through HBO Max, and found that. So, all right, Terrifier 2. I haven't seen Terrifier 2. I've seen the first one, though.
All right, I won't do any spoilers, but I saw the first movie for the first time like a year or so ago. I forget what was happening that made me think of Terrifier again, but it's like I wanted to watch 2. I really wanted to watch it in theaters, but I just never got the opportunity to. But I found it's a $1 or $2 for rental on Vudu, because like you can get it for free on Vudu, but it's like with ads, and I was like, I don't mind throwing $1 or $2 at this movie. I've heard really good stuff about it. And I really liked the first one. And just to keep my thoughts short on it, I did like Terrifier 2. It's really cool because I guess it was kickstarted. The movie was like for I think like $250,000 or something like that. It was a very small amount, and it was crazy how much budget they were like able to get out of it. Like it didn't feel like a movie that only cost $250,000 due to like all the practical effects and everything that happened on set. So I thought that was just crazy. Where it's like, man, where did the budget go? Like, not where did the budget go, but like, how did they get this all done with what seems like such a small budget? And the movie made, I think, something like $5 or $6 million at the box office, which was, crazy for a movie with such a small budget. It was supposed to be in theaters. Terrifier 2. It was only supposed to be in theaters for a week. It ended up being in theaters for, I think, 3 or 4 weeks, since they kept extending it because of how well it was doing and people wanted to watch it.
Production budget $250,000, 10.9 million domestic.
Oh wow, even more.
15.7 worldwide.
That's crazy.
An additional 3.2 million with Blu-ray and digital sales.
Yeah, and when it comes to the second movie, I do think I like the grindhouse feel of the first movie slightly more. Like, this definitely feels like more of like a movie. But that's not completely bad in all aspects. Like the characters actually feel like characters you care about are interested in. Not that I hated the characters in the first movie. It's just like they're not really characters. They don't really have a lot going on. Which it's not like, when it's a Grindhouse movie, it doesn't matter too much for that one. I did like how they make you care about the characters in this movie, kind of like expanding like the lore stuff. Like the movie gets a lot more gruesome and whatnot. Like I don't think anything will ever be as quite shocking as like seeing the lady get sawed in half in the first movie, like the entire way down. And when I say sawed in half, I don't mean across the waist. I mean from the crotch down.
Yeah, upside down.
Yeah,
vertically. Yeah.
That's what kind of made the movie like very shocking and got a lot of attention. But I do think the heart of this movie is David Howard Thornton, who plays Art the Clown. It's funny, he has no dialogue and has the most character out of everybody. Like the expressions he does, and it's funny because like, and I watch some Facebook reels here and there, and what you might consider the video memes and whatnot. And there's a couple ones from Terrifier 2, which I think is hilarious. That it's like, you know, our kids are watching these memes with this clown guy. And it's like, you know what movie is from? That's crazy. But like seeing like where they came from, and I think it just kind of shows like that's how expressive this guy is. That it's very like, you know, he's supposed to be a clown, and it's very funny the way he's expressive, but also very, pun not intended, but the word came up, terrifying. When he's doing these very brutal acts. And I will say my complaint with the movie is the third act really drags on. This movie is over 2 hours long, which I didn't think was necessary at all. I think the movie could have easily been edited down to like an hour 30, hour 45. I think it's like hour 10 minutes, something like that, hour 15 minutes. Or sorry, 2 hours 10 or 2 hours 15. The end really, really drags on. It starts to get a little too crazy and insane for me. But I still very much enjoyed the movie. I think it had, like, the movie is overall probably a better movie than the first one, but I do think I personally enjoyed the more focused and shorter vision of the first movie more. But they're coming out with Terrifier 3 this Christmas. It's going to be a Christmas Halloween movie. And I am definitely going to make sure that I check that one out when it comes out in theaters. I think movies like this are the example of why I think the movie industry is going to go in a much more smaller budgeted direction, because these movies are becoming too big to succeed. Like, you look at Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, where it's like, that movie made a ton of money at the box office, but it was like the budget got so inflated to like, I think almost like $500 million or like $250 million, where it's like, it's going to be really hard to make that money back in today's, you know, movie theater ecosystem. And the movies that are doing well at theaters are the ones that have these very small budgets, but definitely have a lot of passion. You know, coming back to that quote from Jeremy John, has a lot of passion behind it, and it's very obvious. And that's what, you know, people are going to see that. And the movie only needs to make, like with Terrifier, like $10 million to be a huge success. And I think that's the direction that movies are going to go in. And we're going to get a lot less of these like big budgeted Disney or Fox movies that pump millions and millions and millions of dollars into, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars, and they don't get the return because, one, you know, that's too much money to get like a profit on, and two, it doesn't have the same passion. You know, I'd say, and I'm sure you definitely agree, Disney does not have the same passion that they once did for making movies. It's more of a corporate thing now. And yeah, that's it. Definitely, I'd highly recommend you watch Terrifier 2, especially if you've seen the first one. It's only like $1, I think. It's $1 or $2 on Hulu.
Nice. All right. This one is pretty interesting. So this is called PokeRogue. It's actually a website-based game. It's a Pokemon roguelike where everything's randomized. Like, literally everything is randomized. You can play it PokeRogue.net, I believe. Let me double check. Yeah, PokeRogue.net. And it's quite difficult. There is an endless mode where you can just go and go and go, but they have all sorts of things like daily rotations where they'll set up, it's not randomized, and they'll see kind of who can get the furthest based on what they've set up. It's very interesting, but it's all just Pokemon battles. Everything is in the visual. It's visually Pokemon Black and White, so Gen 5. So it's kind of like that old school style. And it's just, if you ever get in the mood just to play some Pokemon, there's no world map, there's no walking around, but you do have a rival per the usual. You do have trainer battles and gym battles and things like that. It's just a lot of fun, and there was one I was trying to have my wife play it, and she didn't know how a couple of the moves worked, but they make you choose Wobbuffet, and for one of those, like, I forget what they call them, but it's like a daily challenge. And the whole thing with Wobbuffet is you have to guess. The only way to win is to guess correctly. You do Mirror Coat if you think it's going to be a special attack. You do Counter if you think it's going to be a physical attack. And the entire thing is just you as Wobbuffet for like the first 5 battles so you can catch a new Pokemon and all that stuff. They have Mega Evolutions and Dynamax and everything you can think of. It's a very interesting game, and I'm surprised that the Pokemon Company and Nintendo has allowed it to exist, like as a website. A lot of these ROM hacks and things are, downloadable through various websites, but yeah, Nintendo's usually pretty strict about it, but they've let this one stay up, and it's very interesting, especially if you just want a little taste of the Pokemon world without buying a game or a Switch or whatever. You can play it literally on your phone. So
it seems like a game that's made to be a Nuzlocke.
Yeah, it's its own. Yeah, and some of these people are doing like, can you beat Pokerogue with only bug type Pokemon, like that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty interesting. It's fun at the least, and like if I need a break from, what I'm doing, I'll just pop on and do that for a little bit. But yeah, it's pretty fun. So that's all I got on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I've been playing some games, but nothing like really extensive to talk about at least yet.
Yeah, and the reason that I talked about this one is that I've been playing so much Destiny with the new DLC, but I'm tired of talking about it on here. I've talked about it like the last 5 weeks in a row. So,
all right, so let's just jump straight into shows.
Yep.
All right, I'm going to start with Delicious in Dungeon. I have been reading that manga for a long time now, and we all got teased like 2 years ago after like a manga anniversary or something, where they had I think it was Studio Bones or somebody made like an animation for it, and we're like, oh, come on, where's the anime? And then finally, like a year or so ago, they announced they're doing an anime. And Studio Trigger is the one who's doing it. Like, people behind like why the heck didn't they name it? Gurren Lagann, like that studio. They're like legendary. They put out so much good stuff. They did like the movie Promare not too long ago, but
very underrated movie.
Yeah, very good movie. I think one of Billy Kametz's last roles, the dub actor before he passed away from cancer. But I finally, because I've been reading it typically, like, with me and like Mashal. If I read it, I don't necessarily watch it. I had a friend though who was very interested and wanted to watch it, so I thought, all right, I'll watch it with him. And we ended up watching the first 12 episodes, which is the first half of the season. I gotta say, it is a very, very good adaptation. I think this as well, but people have been saying that it's one of the best dubs since Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, which, I mean, I consider people say watch that dub over the sub when it comes to Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. And I've been hearing a lot of very similar stuff with this one, which is pretty exciting. So you watched the live action One Piece, right?
No.
Or you did? So the actress who plays Nami in the live action one is her first dub role for an actual anime in this. She voices the main elf girl in it, Marcel, which I thought was pretty cool. Where I was like, I recognize this name. Oh, she's never done an anime before, but she played a live action character, which, I mean, it was very apparent when you're watching stuff for the One Piece show, where it's like, she's the biggest One Piece fan, and she's, I think that's what made it work, is everybody who worked on it seemed to be a fan of the manga or the source material. Go figure. You have people who like the source material that make it, and it comes out well. We would have thought. But yeah, um, I would highly recommend giving this a watch, Dan. We could talk about it. The concept is they're in a dungeon. Their their mission kind of goes wrong. One of the characters' sister gets eaten by a dragon, and they're teleported out. And it's like we have to go down to find that dragon before he digests her, so we can revive her. Because like revive magic is like a big thing in this. But it's like we don't have the resources to really do that. You know, we don't like we can't maintain our weapons and stuff and buy food. So they're like, well, instead of buying food, let's just go down into the dungeon and we're gonna eat the monsters. And that's how we're gonna survive and whatnot. And that's kind of the premise of the show is they're going down throughout the dungeon, and let's say like, you know, the first thing they come across is like a walking mushroom. And so it's like, you know, taking that and turning it into a meal. And then, you know, it gets a little bit more interesting from there on out. But that, how do I say this without spoiling anything? That is the premise of the show, but it gets a lot more deep than that. It's a very interesting world, a lot of interesting stuff going on, and kind of everything that happens. It's not just a monster of the week, what are we going to eat type of thing. There's been a lot of like weird discourse with some people around the show, but the thing that I really like about it is, and you'll get this kind of idea from the theming, is it's about going against the typical Japanese workspace mentality of you can neglect yourself as long as you get more work done, and that's the better thing to do. And that in this entire manga is about, no, if you take care of yourself, you make sure that you're eating properly and giving yourself the rest you need, even though you might work a little bit slower, you're going to end up doing better work and making it farther than anybody else. And I think that's a really cool concept for a theme for a story like this, because it's like, oh, why did they lose against the red dragon at the beginning? It's because they didn't eat, they didn't pack enough food, and they just like, oh, we're gonna keep pushing on, and not keep ourselves well fed. And that's what kind of like led to their problem. And there's other people that they'll come across that are like, oh, we're not going to eat monsters, we're just going to keep pushing on like we can, and they do a lot worse. And I think that's a really cool idea, tying right back into what we began with like Horikoshi. Of all the things that I've talked about today, this would definitely be the thing I recommend the most.
I watched the first episode of The Boys season 4, and there's some things going on, and I can't think of the lady's name, but she's played by Claudia Doumit, the lady who's running for president. The whole thing is about that. Homelander's
vice president, right?
She's running for president now, right?
Oh, I thought she was like running as somebody's vice president.
Oh no, she's on the top.
Oh, okay.
Newman. Her name's something Newman.
Olivia Newman.
Yeah. So that's kind of the whole basis of the first episode. Did they change who plays the black guy on there? Because he doesn't look the same to me.
Black Noir or Mother's Milk?
Yeah.
No, I guess he went through a whole thing. He looks completely different. Like, he's lost a lot of weight. I don't remember exactly what's going on, but I've heard that he lost almost like 30 or 40 pounds or something.
Yeah, he looks a lot different.
Yeah.
Well, you get it's more of the same with The Boys, and in Homelander's case, I think that's a good thing, but they're bringing in these other characters to try and replace some of the 7 who have either retired or died or whatnot. But now Black Noir is a new guy, and he's talking, and it's just it seems like they're running short on things to do here, because The Boys, to me, when they're focusing on the interesting characters, is a like solid 8 out of 10 show. But when we're focusing on these side characters who aren't very interesting, it's kind of mid, kind of boring at times. But they do this interesting thing in the first episode where they introduce a new character to the Seven. Well, I guess maybe she's not exactly in the Seven, but Homelander has an idea of how to save face after the... Did you see the end of season 3?
Yeah.
So
murders a dude.
Yeah. So it turns into this whole thing where he gets this girl to pose as like one of Starlight's followers to start a riot, and it becomes a whole thing. So Homelander's still an awesome character. Like, whether you like him personally or not, like, he's obviously a horrible human, but
I've heard after in episode 3 of this season, it's like, this man deserves an Emmy. And it's kind of crazy that, Anthony Starr is amazing, and that's been the big thing I've heard, is it's like, whether people like or hate the show, Anthony Starr does an amazing job.
Yeah, he's absolutely fantastic. He's one of the best characters in TV, like, hands down. And I just think if they ever decide to kill his character off, the show's going to die. Even though I like Butcher and Jack Quaid. Yeah. Love those guys. I love Starlight. Mother's Milk, I don't like the French guy, but you know, you can't hit on all of them.
Yeah.
But if you killed off Homelander, this show dies. As much as I liked, who was the guy that was like evil Captain
Soldier Boy?
Dude. Yeah, I liked him too, but there's no replacing Homelander. He's so good.
He's got to be the end game. Like,
yeah,
it's like once he's gone, whatever happens to him, that's the end of the show.
Like, yeah, you could probably do like a wrap up episode after he died the second to last, but you can't continue this show like another season without him.
Yeah, that's been my problem. Is it really feels like, and because apparently season 5 is going to be the final season from that have happened. But I feel like this was a 3 or maybe even 4 season show that I really feel like it was a 3 season show that's been extended out because of how popular it is. And that's what's leading to all this filler stuff that you're not finding as interesting, because they're like, well, we have to fill out episodes.
Yeah.
Like, I think of the entire Frenchie plot line that happened in season 3 with like that woman, where she's like, this just feels so unnecessary. And it's like it's here just to like use up some time and whatnot. People have been crapping on season 4 of The Boys a little bit more because it feels like it used to like make fun of both sides of the fence.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's very leaning heavily towards making fun of just the right side of the fence. Have you felt that from the episode 1 at all?
I kind of felt that from most of the show, to be honest with you.
Well, like, because I'd say, for instance, people like I think it was in season 2 or 3 when A-Train makes like that soda commercial.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just making fun of that thing that Kylie Jenner did, which was like, people's lives matter and whatnot. Like they made fun of like, BLM stuff. They made fun of the All Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter stuff. It's like, it didn't matter what side it was on. They were like, hey, all the extremes are stupid. And then, because I was even fine with the end of season 3, it was very obvious that they're making Homelander into like a sort of Trump person. And I'm like, I'm fine with that. But from what I've heard from the season, it really feels like all they're doing now is just making fun of Homelander stuff and like not like the VOT News, which is Fox News stuff. And like even with A-Train, which maybe this doesn't happen in the first episode, but they're even kind of turning him into like a good guy and whatnot.
At one point, they do make fun of, and to me, when they do this, it's making fun of leftist directors. There's a point where, God, what's his name again? The speedster?
A-Train.
A-Train. So they're doing like they're making a film about his life. And at one point he goes, he says something where, I'm paraphrasing. Let's say he's saying, oh, there's no way I can do this. Whatever the sentence was.
Yeah.
The director comes in, he's like, listen, you said there's no way I can do this. But what the script says is, ain't no way I can do this. Like he's like this goofy white dude with a side hat and glasses, and he's like this little dweeb nerd.
Yeah, isn't that in season 3?
They do that in this.
Oh, they do it again.
episode.
Okay. So I remember like they're recording like the coming of the seven or something, and A Train's like, hey, I wouldn't say this kind of thing, and he's like, well, okay, I get that, but the movie script says this is what you got to do, and this is how I wrote it, and then he like writes his own thing, and they're like, well, we're gonna take that, we're gonna toss it, and you're gonna write what we told you to write, or you're gonna say what we told you to say, and yeah. So yeah, and I was actually gonna bring that up where it's like the whole like movie, it was very obvious they're making fun of like the pandering that happens on that side and whatnot. So it looks like they're just continuing that a little bit. Yeah, maybe it's more so episodes 2 and 3 because they dropped all first 3 episodes at the same time. So when I was talking to people, it's people who watched like all 3 of them. So maybe it swings completely different. But I did say I want to watch it myself before I go and make any judgments.
But here's the thing. So when we were growing up, I'm going to use Eminem as an example. Eminem made fun of Bill Clinton, George Bush, skipped Barack Obama, made fun of Trump, skipped Joe Biden. The thing I don't like is when you skip them because the people writing your paychecks, Eminem's supposed to be the rebel. All my life, he's supposed to be a rebel who does not give a fuck. But when you go 8 years without making fun of Obama once because you're afraid, that doesn't work for me. Yeah. When you skip Joe Biden, there's plenty of shit to make fun of about Trump. Every single president, is the perfect target for parody because everyone knows them. It's a common, not even just America. The American president is like a worldwide thing because America, not being like, beating my chest, but America is like one of the most important countries in the world. We can all agree on power. Right. So it's a common thing that when you make fun of the president, then you can get people on board because everyone understands and everyone can see what's happening.
Yeah.
There's a lot to make fun of about Trump. The fucker's orange. He's got a stupid haircut that everyone thinks is a wig. Whatever. There's plenty of stuff. He over-exaggerates on everything.
Yeah.
But there's also stuff to make fun of about Obama, and there's plenty. Joe Biden is the easiest roastable president we've ever had, yet people like Eminem and SNL and things like that want to skip it because they're afraid of what the establishment is going to say.
It's kind of like what
bothers people.
I mean, that's why we liked it. Was called The Hunt, right? So
I was just going to say that. The Hunt.
Yeah.
Everyone
I talk about that movie
fair game. Yes. And one of the funniest things that I find is there's such a double standard, and this is also the thing that bothers me. Joe Biden and Donald Trump both had classified documents in their home. Donald Trump was the president, so he was allowed to take classified documents into his home. It's allowed. It's part of, you can declassify documents as the president. Joe Biden's documents were from when he was vice president and did not have the authority to do so, yet they were trying to convict Trump about it. And at the same time, when they saw the shit in Joe Biden's garage, they didn't say anything.
It's about who they want to persecute. And that's why I say it's like you can make fun of both sides. Something that I think the boys did very well.
One last thing about that, and I'm going to stop talking about this because before we started, I watched the presidential debate.
I was about to do that after we were done.
They said that they're not prosecuting him for the documents case because, and I swear to fucking God, this is real, because I quote, he is not fit to stand trial. You're telling
he's fit to be president.
Yes. So you're saying he's not fit to answer questions about why there are documents in his garage next to his Corvette. He can be president of the goddamn United States.
I think this man's gonna die. Like he's like what 92 or something. Oh jeez.
No, he's only like 82. He's only 4 years.
I mean, still, like Trump at least doesn't forget that he's standing up in front of a bunch of people when he's talking about stuff. He's like, "What am I doing here again?"
Yeah, he's 81 and Trump's 78, and they seem like they're 2 decades apart.
A little bit, but I'll try to make it as concise as possible. So I put on Survivor season 1. my very first experience with Survivor, I'm sure I watched episodes when I was younger, because when I was watching the first season, I was like, some of these challenges seem familiar. However, I never like really, really watched it. My first like true experience with Survivor was I was part of a online gaming Facebook group, but I didn't really like interact with them too much. And then they said, "Hey, we're gonna do like an online version of Survivor," and I thought, "Hey, that might be fun. Let me join in on it." And I did that for 4 years. In fact, the second year I kind of helped run it. I was one of what we called the prosts, because instead of just having like one host, like Jeff Prost, there's multiple of us who made the prost. But it was so much fun. Like all the like backstabbing, intrigue, alliance stuff and whatnot. I kind of live for that drama. I think it's so much fun. Like, one of my favorite moments, especially that like happened when I was playing the game, was, we had like this alliance, and we thought, okay, we have these votes figured out, and then we came to a tribal council way to vote, and it was like a 4-way tie. It was like, what the heck was going on? And I was up for like 4 hours straight messaging people, trying to figure out what was going on, and then like finally, I got a screenshot from somebody that was doctored, and then I see like in the corner, it's like, wait, they have a Facebook message that says hidden alliance and whatnot. It like cracked the whole thing like wide open. And so like it was so much fun just doing all that different stuff. And I never won, but one of my teammates won. Like one of my core alliance people won like the second year, and I made it into the jury like years 3 and 4. But that was kind of like my big exposure with Survivor, and why I kind of like liked the whole concept of it. So I thought, I'm sick in bed. I read some stuff which we'll get into later. But I was like, I want to just throw something on to watch, because I can't really focus on reading. So I threw on season 1 of Survivor, having just, been reminded of it with Dead Meat. And then I can see why this show became as big as it was. It was so much fun watching Survivor season 1, seeing like all the different games that happened, all the different kind of like intrigue and stuff, and it was very tame compared to what I was used to with my like my game of Survivor that I had played and whatnot, which like the intrigue and the backstabbing, the alliance stuff was way more and you can tell like the seeds of it were like sparking up in this season. But, I really got into it. It was like, man, I really wanted this people. And, I did some research that into like Survivor and the impact it had like on TV. It's one of the first like reality TV shows that actually like really took off. It wasn't the first, but it was like the first one that became really the zeitgeist that was reality TV show at the time. And, I was just like super invested into it. And the fact that I thought it was really cool is like, there was only like one big alliance that ever really got made. It was like these 4 people, and they were the final, spoilers for season 4 or for season 1, a 24-year-old show. But that group of 4 was the final 4. And I just thought that was so cool, where it's like, they were the kind of only people that went in there with a plan and whatnot, and it showed because they were the final 4. And I know that's going to change later on, where there's going to be actually more alliances and stuff happening. But I don't know. And then like at the very end, it was like there's 2 people that's going to be between, and I could tell that it wasn't like classic, or like this what Survivor is now, where it's just like who played the game the best, like planned out, had the best alliance, that type of stuff. That wasn't really like what they were going for. It was like, I was the nicest to the most people, so I should win because you like me more, people on the jury. And I was like, this person better not win. And the guy who I was like should have won ended up winning. I think it was like 4-3 or something for the vote. And I was like super happy with like that outcome.
Yep, famous like Richard Hatch is the winner of Survivor 1. And a little backstory for you is I used to watch Survivor every single week for about the first maybe 10 to 15 seasons of it, and it's on season like 45 or something.
Yeah.
But when you talk early Survivor, this is exactly my wheelhouse. I used to watch this. I was in like middle school when this came out, and and you are correct. So when Survivor 1 came out, if you've seen a bunch of them, when you go back and watch it, you're like, oh, well, this person could have switched over to the other team here and all that stuff. It wasn't a thing. This was like a beta. This was the first ever. So everything that started to become a thing, like, started here. And this is back when they used to do, I always remember Jervis, the black guy. He was the guy I was rooting for, right? I mean, sorry. I didn't root for him because all white people are racist or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But that's the guy I was rooting for. And when he had to eat
the bugs,
cockroaches, the bugs, whatever they were, like, that always stuck in my memory, because not only is it physical and it's an endurance challenge, but also you got to fight through eating this nasty shit.
Yeah.
Like, but now it's kind of like, I stopped watching it when all the people that they would get on there are muscular, and because Richard Hatch was a fat guy, fat gay guy who, and they didn't hammer home that he was gay. Like, it wasn't like,
oh yeah, no, like, he came out on the TV show, I guess.
Everyone, like, when I stopped watching, I can't remember exactly what season it was, but every single person, it was either like a fitness guy or a female who's like a 10 out of 10 model. It's like, no, we want to just take a group of randoms and throw them on this island. We don't need a marathon runner. We know that the guy can survive without food. He runs for 48 hours straight. Like, it's not interesting. But if you look at the final four, it was an old lady, a very old guy. I think he was like in his 70s.
Yep.
Kelly, who was the runner-up, who was a young gal, and then Richard, who's like, he was like very.
That was the thing. Is like he wasn't like physically adept, but like he was very smart, and like he was the person who caught fish. Like, he was the fisher. He went out and he caught, well, not just fish, but it was like more so like a lot of manta rays and eels and stuff. He had been planning all this stuff, and like that's why I think he deserved to win the most. Was like, this guy from the beginning was like, yeah, I'm not the most physically adept person. I'm not going to win the most challenges, but I'm going to play this game where it's like, I'm going to get these, make this alliance and make sure we do this and whatnot. But the girl who came in second place.
Oh, Kelly.
I respect Kelly because, she did play a game near the second half where it's like, I'm going to try to play both sides.
Yeah.
Like, lying to people. But it's like, who was playing the game from the beginning and made it to the end, playing that game? People didn't like him and whatnot, but he was just so good at like his alliance and stuff that he was doing that he stayed in the game. It was Richard, and I was like, that guy deserves to win. And I was going to be very upset if he didn't win, because it was like, because some of the dreamers was like, we don't like him and whatnot. It's like, he was kind of mean and she was nice to us. It's like, who gives a crap? It's about like, this guy played the game very well from the beginning, had this alliance where like they had like these solid 4 votes the entire time.
Yeah.
And
that's what I think was such a clever idea with the jury, is that all the people that you voted off, well, the people who make it to the end, you have to face in order to win your $1 million or whatever the prize was.
And that's what made Kelly lose, is she pissed off Susan, who has like one of the most iconic speeches where it's like, she's like, Richard's the snake for sure, but Kelly's the rat, and we should do as nature intended and have the snake eat the rat. And she was like, if I saw you dying on the side of the road, I would walk right on by.
Oh, yeah.
I know.
I remember that now.
Yeah, where like she's not mega burned, and she was like, because she was like, everyone was supposed to just ask them a question or say something to them, but she's like, I'd like to address the jury.
Yep.
And and she's like, I hope I am the one vote that makes you lose, and Kelly lost by 1 vote.
Yeah.
Which, it was very entertaining. So I'm thinking of watching season 2 and seeing how far I can get. I was like, man, this, and like you said, that it seems to change from. They felt like everyday people where all their random personalities had to come together and not just survive together, but you get to see how they come into conflict with each other and whatnot.
Yep.
And it sucks that it seems like it lost that. But, I'm thinking of starting up season 2 and being like, man, I had so much fun watching this 24-year-old reality show and like, really liking these personalities and whatnot.
But yeah, vouch for probably the first 10 seasons. I'll have to go back and see what I remember, but they start to do this thing where, so you win the immunity idol from challenges, but they start to do this thing, I can't remember how far in, where they'll have a hidden immunity idol, like hidden throughout the island.
It's a hidden idol.
And people won't know that you have it. It's very clever.
We had that in our line one where it's like somebody, if they came across, like we'd say, like, here's a very obscure little hint thing, and if you come to us with the answer, like nobody will know that you came to us. You'll just get the hidden immunity idol. But it's also cool because it's not just, okay, you're just immune once. It's no, you have to choose to use it. So there's still a risk where it's like, if you think you're getting voted out, you use it. And like, if some people know you have it, they can try to bait you out with it or something. But yeah, it adds to the, the subterfuge, which is, I just love, I live for that stuff where it's like, that was really fun. And yeah, like, and the thing I just quickly want to talk about before we move on to our final stuff here. Like Rudy is the guy who was like 72 years old, Navy SEAL vet, and you'd think he's the type of person where it's like, he just does not get along with, homosexuals, LGBT stuff. Like he probably hates them. And it's like him and Richard had like the best friendship where he's just like, I can't believe, I'm doing, I'm Alan myself with a gay guy and whatnot. And my friends back home, they're not going to like this. But it just kind of showed that it's like, it didn't matter though, where it's like, and I think that's really cool. It's like one of the first times on television you got to see that kind of like sting may be broken, where it's like this guy who you think, he's 70, he wants nothing to do with a homosexual, and he allied himself. They got along very well, and I guess from some of the stuff I watched afterwards, they had a great friendship after the show ended. Just kind of like breaking that mentality of, and it just reminds me of the world so much. Where it's just like, even though, and he even said this, like, I don't agree with your lifestyle completely, but you're still a great person and we can get along and have a good friendship. Imagine that, right?
That's how the world used to run.
I know, imagine that. Like, hey, I don't agree with your politics, but we can still get along and be friends with each other. And, that's the way I try to live my life. And it was just so cool. I know, I say it's so crazy where it's just like, that is the way that the world used to be. And now it's an us or them thing. There's no happy medium, and I just thought that was so cool to see. Where it's like, it doesn't matter, I don't agree with you, we can still get along. So you and I don't agree on a lot of stuff, and it's like, who cares? We do agree on a bunch of stuff, and that's what we can get along with and stuff. So it's funny how people can actually work.
Well, part of the magic of life is finding people you don't. One of my biggest pet peeves, other than my aunt's Great Dane, so one of my biggest pet peeves is when people say, I don't agree with somebody on everything. Let's be clear. Nobody agrees with anyone on everything. Like when people will say, oh, I like Trump, but I don't agree with him on everything. Nobody does. Nobody.
Yeah.
There's robots agree with each other on everything because they're programmed that way. But it's part of the magic of life is to get different perspectives. Listen to people, understand where they're coming from, and just because you understand and respect their opinion doesn't mean you have to agree. I don't know how we got here, but I'm a pre-social media. Social media came around in 2006? Really? I mean, we had MySpace, but I mean, that was just designed to.
I think Facebook hit the scene around 2009, 2010.
Yeah, it's just. Oh yeah, Facebook in 05, 06 was just for college students, and then they opened it up to everyone probably around when you're saying.
Yeah, because I say that's when all my friends were getting Facebook accounts, and I was like, no, thank you.
Yeah, very stupid, but it's just ruined people, and everyone just wants to be in an echo chamber rather than agreeing or disagreeing with people. But I think we're probably going to have to wrap it up. A couple things I've been putting off: Where the Big Boys Play, Who Killed WCW. It's a wrestling documentary. Isaiah has the anime that ruined its ending in 2 episodes, and more. So I thought maybe if you saw that I put Terrified on here, it's not Terrifier.
Yeah, no, so I was like, okay, not Terrifier. It's something else. I have no idea what that is, but I guess we'll find out.
Yeah. All right, so we'll catch you guys later.
Peace.